Hello there. Welcome to the presentation on work through wellness. I'm Andrew Su, and today we'll be presenting on Starbucks. So, the gist of it is comprised of reflections and coffee companies. For reflection one, I have decided to cover this part because when it comes down to teaching or explaining the most important DEI definitions to someone else, I would sum them up as I would have to say you have diversity, but a lot of companies don't have the other two, which would be equity and inclusion. So what do I mean by that? And oftentimes they might have inclusion, but they probably won't be having equity. And you can see the images I select them. You can see there's diversity. You can see there's plenty of diversity. There's um, inclusion, but there's no equity. Not everyone gets the same permission. So that one creates a lot of tensions into today's society revolves around equity. And that being said, reflection two, when it comes down to 2 to 3 things I learned from this week's lesson on beginning with history, I did learn, as you can see in the photos, that tensions that masters insist that certain racial knowledge is crucial to establishing value, and certain races have certain values by dividing and conquering and pitting minorities against each other. It's going to raise tensions. You can see people eventually learn from that. They punch through the American flag. You see predators and prey from Zootopia getting along with each other, as well as the minority model myth, which again pits minorities against each other. And of course, speaking of tension, that's not always a comfortable subject. It's always very touchy. So let's get to a less touchy subject, which is about relaxation. So I picked these images because the Scandinavian design is incredibly relaxing and encouraging on the eyes, and it doesn't have much noise on it. I also picked hot chocolate because, oops, I love hot chocolate, and hot chocolate does a good job of soothing the mind for me and also keeping me awake. Sometimes even better than coffee. And of course, the third image. I love swimming, exercising outdoors, the beautiful weather outside, and that one also relates to me because nothing beats waking up in the Scandinavian bedroom and enjoying a cup of hot chocolate in this sort of weather. And of course, reflection four, because I was imagining a lot of good scenarios. I want to talk about imagination. So relationship to imagination and dreaming. You can see MBA host MBA wise. I wish to get a house, a car, earn plenty of money, and of course have my dreams of going to space or doing all sorts of things. So having imagination out of this world helps a lot. And of course, that is very influential. As you can see, the guy with the key and idea definitely has that sort of boundary. And reflection five, aha moments from dialogue with dignity. I do believe stigmatization and wholeness are aha moments because again, you need to understand the historical aspects of discrimination. Of course, ranging from certain demographics that are wholly in the dough to this group doesn't matter. You can see the fly and the mosquito arguing with each other, as well as SpongeBob having a stigma against doing business with ants, even though he too is also an animal. And of course, being wholesome matters a lot as well. And of course, reflection six, as you can see, when it comes down to one aha or takeaway from this week's lecture and slides, I believe that um, one big thing is not everyone starts on equal footing, as you can see in leading for work equity wellness, part 5, slide 21. Some people may be disabled, some people have health problems, and of course, many businesses make the mistake of assuming that everyone's on equal ground, as you can see in the images. And of course, reflection 7 for this one, emotional value is important for evaluating DEIJR, and this is mostly because when it comes down to evaluation strategies, you need to be able to relate to people and have empathy, and that's very important. You want to be relational, you don't want to be transactional. You don't want to be contractual either. And American culture is highly individualized and highly contractual. You don't want to have that. That being said, we'll be moving on to Starbucks, and when it comes down to approach that bridges people across differences. The company makes. I believe that the DEIJR approach, more specifically the DEI aspect of it, because this is a framework that used by the company to bridge people across cultural differences, national, linguistic, and gender differences across all boundaries. And of course, this is evident, as you can see, initiative to appeal to audiences in several languages when you're advertising specific products. And of course, stages assessment. The current stage and the next stage of Starbucks. The current stage is very well integrated. They are pretty mature. They've been doing business since 1999. internationally. And of course, they still have to struggle to get to sustainability, which is the next stage that it's trying to achieve. It's not just environmental sustainability; it's also the sustainability of inclusive employee morale, which we'll get to that after the history assessment. So when it comes down to artifacts I found about the company that reflect the culture of stigmatization or devaluation, it can be a lot. It can be lawsuit, range from lawsuits to discrimination, different countries, cultures, and understanding cultural norms, as well as initiating DI initiatives beyond just profit, profit, profit. The Starbucks, again, is currently struggling against domestic competitors, especially like in coffee in China. And of course, when it comes down to the final assignment this semester, I do want to talk about grind culture and the bridge framework. When it comes down to grind culture, evidence like grinding, return to office 4 days a week. Um, this lady that I had who burned herself and had second degree burns, who's continued to force working. That's grind culture, like most of corporate America. And of course, baristas frequently facing staffing challenges, return to office mandates. Unfortunately, this is not uncommon across the U.S. So of course, recovery with recovery this is perpetuated. The organization ignores a lot of demands for RTO against RTO and ignores the complaints. However, they do have offer benefits of recovery, for example, well-being, and of course, like a work-life balance is a big one. But of course, health, financial, employee benefits are definitely better than average for Starbucks. And of course, yeah, and of course, that's very restorative. For image assessments, the images are iconic and it shows a happy mermaid, and it does influence both internal employees and external customers towards a culture of stigmatization and grind culture, most likely due to the fact that it does perpetuate the culture that you need to work hard, and of course you need to you need to incorporate good feedback, but of course they also need to incorporate good employee feedback, like complaints against return to office, how they're sourcing their coffee ethically. They need to be able to maintain trust in the brand, especially when it comes to sustainability, counterbalance with return to office. And they need to not just focus on staff members, but they also focus on their stories too. And of course, dialogue. This creates a culture of wholeness by including and accepting those who have differences. So this is incredibly important because they do need to convey how work from home employees can be beneficial to the company's sustainability by reducing carbon emissions. They do need to have an approach in their next stage, which should be tweaked. To put a more positive spin on their dialogue and therefore influencing individuals to better hire, promote, attract, and retain employees and customers. And they need to keep open communication, especially for work from home employees as well. And of course, grieving. They do have to have sacrifices. For example, they definitely have to sacrifice, yeah, mandates like return to office in favor of pushing towards their goal of sustainability. Other things like reduced timing and waiting in lines to compete against Luckin Coffee is also very important as well. Mobile application friendly, again, that's something they need to do as the US is very, very much PC heavy. So several sacrifices they need to make to be more sustainable and to be more competitive as well. And of course, evaluating with empathy and emotions. They definitely need to do that part, especially for their employees. They focus too much on the customers, as you can see in the slides, and not enough on the employees. Using strategy of DEI, JB, they can certainly be conducting surveys and interviews, and of course, making sure changes are being made progressively. Determining timeline for changes, again, they need to capture employees' perceptions, especially with the 7-item Gartner Inclusion Index. That is a good resource before taking action. And of course, self-reflection, awareness, changes in the process. Ultimately, it's the long run that matters the most, especially in corporate when quick results are the norm. And of course, sample scenarios through documentation, simulations paint a better picture of results that could come in the near future. So I want to say this is my worksite pages. Thank you for attending and watching my presentation.